Chapter 2, Taking Every Thought Captive. So how do you enter a place of rest? Have you ever tried to sit down during quiet time in your place of prayer, and all of a sudden you get flooded by a massive amount of thoughts? For example, let's say you decide to think about Jesus, and without any warning, you start thinking about groceries you need to get, shopping to be done, laundry that needs to be changed out, a phone call you have to make, a Facebook post to respond to. The list seems to go on and on. As these thoughts rapidly cross your mind, it can feel like they are impossible to contain and grasp. And I'm not going to lie, by default, they are impossible to grasp. Well, what are we waiting for then? Let's do something about it and get a handle on these thoughts by making what used to be considered impossible to be made possible. Imagine you are standing at the edge of a beautiful lake with calm, crystal clear waters, and the reflection you see of yourself is perfectly clear. Now, below your feet are some small pebbles. Imagine picking one up and tossing it into the lake, right in the center of your reflection. Notice now that ripples begin to appear in the water, your reflection is starting to distort a little bit. Now, go ahead and pick up a handful of pebbles and toss those in. The water ripples that are created by all those pebbles is nothing short of absolute chaos, and you could not see your reflection even if you tried to. In fact, you would have no idea your reflection is even there. Each of these pebbles symbolize your thoughts. So what happens when pebbles are no longer tossed in? Well, the waters will get calm and you will again be able to see your perfect reflection. This is the goal we are trying to achieve. When you are carrying on a conversation with somebody, if the person you are talking to desires to speak, but you choose to continue speaking, well, then you won't be able to hear what they have to say until you decide to stop talking. It is the same way with hearing the voice of the Holy Spirit, which I will talk more in depth about in a future chapter. If the pebbles of our thoughts are turned down or off, it unlocks the ability for us to be able to hear the thoughts that the Lord is speaking to us. Okay, now that we know about what these thoughts are doing, it is time to take them captive by bringing chaos to order. Imagine you are standing inside a movie theater. Feel free to get some popcorn and whatever else. Choose a theater to walk into and lock the door behind you. This is the only door in the theater, and you will notice that you are the only one in the theater. Go ahead and find a seat to sit and get comfortable in. The curtains are closed. The lights are decreasing from dim to dark. The curtains begin to open. You look to see the movie screen is blank. And all of a sudden you see an image appear on the screen. The image you are seeing is you. As you look at this image of you on the screen, let's say you are wondering about what kind of thoughts you are thinking. As you intently observe, all of a sudden thoughts start rapidly flying across the screen. One after another. So many thoughts at once to the point where it just feels impossible to keep up with it. It is like continual handfuls of pebbles being tossed into the water. This is all very overwhelming. What can we do to get a handle on all these thoughts? Well, if you look down at the cup holder, you will notice a remote control is in there. I know remote controls don't exist in theaters, but in this one it does, LOL. So on the remote, you have several buttons you can push. You can fast forward, rewind, stop, pause, and even do slow motion. So let's say you slow your thoughts down with the slow motion button. Now you can see what these thoughts are. Since they are going so slow, you can even choose one now to really focus in on. So go ahead and press the pause button to cause the picture on the screen to become still. The result of this exercise is one way to get an actual grasp on your thoughts. Another method to help hang on to your thoughts is to imagine a round room in the shape of a dome. You are in the center of the room. There is one door into this room, and the hallway that leads into it is literally thousands of light years long. Now, coming down the corridor are thoughts traveling at the speed of light. Since the hallway is long enough, it makes it a whole lot easier for you to see the incoming thoughts, so that only one thought needs to be handled at a time. So let's say there's an angel that is placed at as a guard at the door. The angel is instructed to capture your thoughts, and if the thought is of a nature that is not glorifying to God, it can then cast that thought down. If the thought arriving is glorifying to God, the angel can then be granted permission to forward it on to you, and you can at that time choose what you want to do with it. We will talk more about this in the next chapter. Okay, now it probably seems to you like a lot of hard work, and if I was in your position, I would be thinking, seriously, Rich, do you really think I have time to do all this work every time just to hear from the Lord? That is a great question, and I am here to tell you that there is a lot of hope. First of all, this process of stillness and rest, taking thoughts captive, is only one method of thought control. In the next chapter, I am going to show you one that is much easier to grasp, even in a matter of seconds. But for now, I want to give you encouragement that will help you to understand there is a bright light at the end of the tunnel in regards to this method. You might be wondering why I have presented the difficult method first. And the reason is because in later chapters, I will present more advanced methods of seeing in the Spirit that require this aspect of rest to be understood and practiced as a prerequisite to the more advanced material. But please do understand right away that in the next couple chapters, I will show you methods of both hearing and seeing in the Spirit in a matter of seconds. But even so, I encourage you to practice the method in this chapter to prepare for what is coming later in the book. Okay, now here's another method to visualize the actual application on taking thoughts captive. Have you ever heard of an ocean bar? If not, I will tell you it is the dividing point between the open ocean and the biggest wave before the open ocean. Now, when you are on shore, you will see a few small waves, and if you go out a bit further toward the open ocean, you will come against some bigger waves, and going out even further, the waves will get bigger and bigger until you eventually cross the largest wave before you arrive at the open ocean bar, or at the open ocean beyond the ocean bar. Now, in regard to the standpoint of your progress, the smallest wave symbolizes your ability to enter into a state of silence with no thoughts, or perhaps a single thought, for example, focus on Jesus, for just a couple seconds. A larger wave is, let's say, 10 seconds. A larger wave, let's say, is 30 seconds, then 1 minute, then 5 minutes, then 10 minutes. It just progresses as you go along. Now, the cool thing is, the point where you are currently at with your progress becomes the starting point each time you return to practice. So if you make it 10 seconds, you will be able to make it 10 seconds just about every time, if not every time. As you continue to practice, you will eventually make it over the ocean bar, where you will no longer have to strive to enter into this state. I have tested this and arrived over the ocean bar. It is so true and incredible. You can literally, with a single thought, enter right into a state of rest with hardly any effort at all. A single thought and boom, you are there. So combining the lake, the movie theater, the dome, and the waves together is an excellent visual way to remember the application of how to take your thoughts captive and successfully enter into rest. All right, I am going to end this video and move on to the next chapter in just a minute. Love you guys.